Network. I'm Adam, and we're here at the Newcastle United Training Centre in Benton as part of a donation that the Two Network's very own Vince made to the food bank at the Tyneside Irish Centre a few weeks ago with all the journalists and the talking, which has been great. So far it's a bright sunny day. We've arrived on team photo day of all days, just a few days ahead of the big showdown against Liverpool on Sunday evening. Now we've just met Rafa Benitez. He's in fine spirits, as are we've met a couple of the squad as well. We've got a handshake from Yedlin, and we've got a handshake from James, and Rafa Benitez, of course. We'll have an audience with him in a little bit as well. The guys are just getting changed from their strips from the team photo, and training's about to start, so we're just waiting around for that. We won't be able to take any footage, of course, but I'll certainly feed back on what I see, what the mood's like, and see what the confidence is like in the squad. But they seem to be laughing and joking before. The guys seem in pretty good spirits by all accounts. Ahead of the Liverpool game, I think there's been a lot of talk about Perez's function in the team and whether he creates enough, does he score enough goals, does he assist more. But I wrote an article in the week that suggests that actually Jose's function in the team is a lot more important than people give him credit for. It's the work rate, it's the application, it's the fact that he will chase down. Last season, Dwight Gale was known for chasing down, not giving defenders high pressing, not giving defenders enough time on the ball. Whereas Perez, I think, with a less mobile forward in Joselu or Mitrovic, as it might be, Perez provides that speed, that pace, that energy to put all the defenders under pressure. And I think Liverpool, who are prone to defensive lapses, we're going to need to get into them and get right in their faces. And I think Gallagher flags are preparing something quite special in terms of a flag display as well. I think Liverpool's going to be the biggest flag display that they've done. So I think the atmosphere will be absolutely roaring. I think with it being Rafa Benitez and his old club as well, who he's very fond of still. Of course, it's going to be a really special night, and I think we can get over the disappointment of the defeat at Brighton with a really good performance against Liverpool. Whether we win, lose or draw, I think it'll instill a bit more team spirit into the game again. So I was just talking there about team spirit in the side, and after I recorded that, we went out to watch one of the training sessions. Very privileged. I think we were one of this kind of thing. Regular fans going to see training session. I think they only get about 10 there a year, if that, at the training centre. So we were myself, Vince, my brother-in-law, and my dad John were very privileged to be one of the few to witness something like that. And it was honestly, I'm recording this part the day after I've tried to process everything that went on yesterday. It was, as a Newcastle United fan, it was just one of the best experiences of my life altogether. It was absolutely incredible. But I'll talk a bit about the training. They were looking at some, there was a couple of exercises. In the first exercise, a possession game. And it was quite sort of, there was a few laughs and a bit more informal. Obviously they were still working hard, but it was just seemed a bit more light-hearted. And then when they moved on to the second and third and fourth exercises, you could tell they were doing some endurance stuff, they were doing some tactical stuff, and it was really, really interesting quite how the focus of this whole squad was elevated just after that first exercise. A bit more of a warm-up game, that. But then as soon as we got into the other pitch and we were watching them doing these other exercises, when Rafa talked, everyone shut up. And it was, he doesn't shout. He's very, he talks a lot, in a very good way. He talks a lot, he's very personal and affable. But he's got I guess he's got an assertive tone. I guess because of his status in the game, his standing, the trophies he's won, the success he's achieved as a football manager, commands respect, and that's exactly what he gets from the Newcastle squad. But without having to shout, or I mean, I'm sure he will shout if he feels it's necessary. But he's not one of these He's not one of these managers that, as Isaac Hayden alluded to with Wenger, doesn't say it very much. He doesn't. He likes to correct there and then, Rafa. He likes to talk to people, tell them what to do. No, go back. We'll do that again, and drill it into his players. But he just speaks assertively. He doesn't necessarily have to annoy everybody. It's by shouting at them or ranting, which I imagine probably some of his predecessors at St James's Park Hotseat might have well have done. But it's just a bit more considered and a bit more constructive, really. It's all very well shouting at someone saying, no, don't do that. Right, so what do you want me to do? And Rafa's that kind of manager. Don't do this. Try thinking about this. And he puts the arm around the shoulder, and that's the kind of manager he is. And I think that's why one of the biggest takeaways for me from watching the training session and actually seeing the squad in a more informal setting with doing the team photo, for example, we're laughing. There's real spirit there, and this is off the back of a 1-0 defeat by Brighton last weekend. It was more that they didn't let themselves wallow in that defeat, and that's probably how. And it speaks volumes for that. We went on after losing the first 2 games and losing away to Huddersfield, which you'd think that we'd at least not get a draw from. That heads don't go down in the squad as easily as they might have done in years gone by before Rafa Benitez, with the likes of, say, Pardew, Carver, McLaren, Kinnear. The heads don't go down, and I think mentally we're a lot stronger. Well, I think mentally we're better equipped. Yes, we don't have all the abilities a lot of other Premier League clubs do, but we have a manager who's very meticulous, knows exactly what he wants. He does his homework to the nth degree, and he really, really knows his stuff, Rafa Benitez, down to the minute details and elements of any scenario, of any set play, of any open play. He's a walking encyclopedia of football. He's a genius. We have a world-class manager, and I just need to stress that. And I think as much as his tactical prowess and his knowledge of the game is a huge weapon for Newcastle United, his ability to make people feel good about themselves and to motivate, but again in a constructive way that's meaningful and can last. His coaching team are slick, they're professional. There's not a minute wasted on the training ground. Everyone knows what they're doing. So it's from transition to exercise to the next one, to the next one. They really, really know the stuff, and it was an amazing and unique insight into to see how any Premier League club trains on a regular day. And as much as I don't really have many of these kinds of training behind closed doors training sessions to compare what I saw to, it looked and felt as I would expect a Premier League club to be in regards to their training regime. They were well drilled. There was purpose. There was tactical insight. There was corrections. He talked a lot. But yeah, just a slick operation. He's got a really good team around him, Rafa Benitez, and that's again what he brings. You can't imagine, as much as I can imagine maybe Steve McLaren probably being quite good on the training ground by all accounts, because of, you don't get to be Sir Alex Ferguson's number 2 without having a bit of nous on the training ground. But I think if you look at the likes of, say, John Carver, Pardew, they're not bringing that kind of stuff to a training session. They're just not. And I think that shows on the pitch eventually, or straight away if it's John Carver. But anyway, after that, we met pretty much most of the first team squad. We had once they'd eaten in the canteen, and we got some signatures and handshakes and had some good crack on with a lot of them. Again, there's no egos in that dressing room. There really isn't, and that's another thing that I think Rafa Benitez brings to the squad. He's got rid of a lot of deadwood and rotten apples, I guess, in the club, and everyone's sort of, it's a young squad, but people are hungry, and
yeah, I know that they've been probably trained to be nice to people and smile, but again, they still did it, and you were able to have a bit of back and forth. Rob Elliott, I found absolutely hilarious, really, really funny guy. Had some good crack on with the other guys, Marino, Atsu, Mo Diame, Henri Save had some good crack together. You know, we I'm just trying to think if we wrote a big list. Freddie Woodman, he'd just been announced as in England under 21 squad, so we congratulated him for that. And he was, I think it had only just broke a few minutes before, so he was quite like, oh, right, yeah, thanks very much for that. We saw Richie and Elliott and Shelby, Marino and Bemba, Perez, Yedlin, Sterry. A shout out for Jamie Sterry as well. He took the time to ask us how we've you know, what do we think of the training session. He obviously saw us watching, and he was very honest about his own aspirations. He's a Geordie boy, he wants to do well, he wants to get his chance in the first team. I was asking if he thought he might get a chance, you know, this season, and he's just come back from a big injury, obviously, but he's really hoping to. I think he really wants to do well here. I think he probably wants to achieve what Paul Dummett's achieved in sort of staking down a first team place for his own. It's going to be difficult because I like Yedlin, and Yedlin offers a lot. But you know, Sterry's got some pace as well. Vince noticed giving Atsu a run for his money, and Atsu's a fast lad. Like, he's really quick, obviously. So yeah, it's good. It's good to talk to some of these younger guys like Woodman, like Sterry. I was speaking to Woodman, asking him if he thinks he'll get the #1 jersey by the end of the season, and again, that's what he's working towards as well. I'd like to think he's, you know, what we don't want to do is be in another situation like Fraser Forster where he doesn't get a game, but then he goes on to become a really well-established international goalkeeper when he was one of our own. So what we don't want to do with Woodman is wait too long, so he gets bored and he moves on and looks to find his career elsewhere. Let's hope that doesn't happen, and I hope he gets an opportunity this season, maybe in the FA Cup perhaps, I don't know. But so that side of it was great. We got offered in and had a bit of food in the canteen, and then Ryan from the press office in Newcastle United, who was basically chaperoning us all day, grabbing his cups of tea as and when. But we had some food, and he said he was going to try and grab ask Rafa to come in for 2 minutes. So Rafa came along, plates were cleared away, and we were sat around the canteen table at Newcastle United Training Centre in Benton, and Rafa Benitez comes in, sits down, we chat about a few things, other things, then we chat a lot about sort of charity and how, you know, the auction money that went to Newcastle food banks. He was really obviously passionate about it himself because he was involved on that night with topping up the money raised for that True Faith event. It was brilliant with all the journalists, and then we started talking about football inevitably, and we talked tactics, and he asked us for our opinions. I tried to give across sort of insight into what I think he's doing with the team, and corrected me on a couple of things, but then he gave a couple of wry smiles to a few things I was saying. Obviously, he's not going to tell me, but I noticed a couple of things on the training pitch that might come about on Sunday, Liverpool. So I asked him about those, and all he did was give a bit of a smile. So there might be something more in it, but I'm not going to disobey his trust there. I'd rather wait until after the Liverpool game to tell you what I thought was going to happen and whether it came about or not, because I don't want to give, if it was a bit of a secret, I don't want any factions from Liverpool, you know, loose lips sink ships. We're all in it together, so for the good of the team, I'll keep my lips sealed for now, but I'll tell you after the Liverpool game what those things that I spotted on the training ground were and whether they come to fruition. But Rafa Benitez, world-class manager. He's won La Liga twice, he's won the FIFA World Club Cup, he's won the Champions League with Liverpool, obviously, famously, made another Champions League final, won the Coppa Italia. He's managed some of the biggest clubs in Europe, and Real Madrid, obviously, Napoli. And here he is, sat with me, Vince, and my dad, chatting tactics, chatting football for an hour and a half. It's days before the Liverpool game. He's obviously got so much to do to prepare. He's got loads that he could be getting on with, but no. He came and took his time. Again, he could have come and sat down. 15 minutes would have been incredible. Like an audience one-on-one with Rafa Benitez. But no, it was an hour and a half. I couldn't stop talking to him about tactics. And then he got his... we started talking about zonal marking, for example. And how we've, Jamal Lascelles has benefited from a couple of our opponents this season playing with zonal marking. So then he gets up, because we're in a canteen, he's grabbing pepper pots and salt shakers, and he's getting the olive oil bottles, and he's getting napkins and water bottles, and he's moving the bottles around as the defender. So right, so you're defending a corner. How do you line up? So he's telling me where to put the olive oil bottle. He's telling me where to put the salt and pepper shakers, and it's like, right, well, I'd have a tall lad at the front. Or somebody who's good at heading, like we used to have Shearer at the front post. He used to head out loads all the time. So I'd have like a big lad at the front there. Maybe behind him, I think a bigger lad would be wasted. So maybe put your second biggest man 2 over, so you could defend like the centre to the back post, and have somebody quick. And it was amazing. But his tactical insight, he spoke very candidly about lots of situations, and situations with the club as well, which, again, I think have been touched on by journalists, and I'm not going to disclose those things, but he's very trusting of us, and I told him, speaking on behalf of, I don't have the right to speak on behalf of Newcastle fans, but I basically told him that I know a lot of Newcastle fans, most of us I would imagine. He got criticised from factions of the media for speaking out against Mike Ashley. But I told him that how refreshing it was to have somebody who is fighting our corner. What Rafa wants is for the good of the fans, for the good of the club. What Mike Ashley wants, who knows what Mike Ashley wants, but certainly his behaviour over the last decade, I would say a large proportion of that has not been in the best interest of the club and in the best interest of him alone, if not all in his own interests. And I think that's become widely obvious now. But I told Rafa that we need a mouthpiece like him as fans. We need somebody who understands us, doesn't patronise us, doesn't call us deluded, doesn't think that we want 200 million transfer budget. We don't. We never did. And I think anybody repeating crap like that just haven't done their homework, or it's an easy punchline, or it's lazy. And I think we're worth better than that. We deserve a bit more respect from people for that. But Rafa gets it, and Rafa's the glue, and he's the brains, and he's just a really nice guy. I can't put it more than that. He was so down to earth. I'm sitting there. We're sitting there having a chat down the pub like you would, talking football with your mates like you would with your family members as well, just chatting about football. We had that chat with Rafa, except the only difference was he's won the Champions League, like he's won La Liga, he's won the UEFA, he's won the Europa League with Chelsea as well. Like you're having that chat, that in-depth chat about tactics down the pub, but he's actually gone and done it. It was an incredible experience, and I've only got really good things to say about the man. I've got a lot of time for him, as he had a lot of time for us, and I just think if that's how he treats strangers who he's never met before, yeah, we were talking a lot about football, and I think we could we had enough tactical knowledge between the three of us to have a proper conversation. It was a back and forward. I think if we if we didn't know that much about tactics or weren't interested in them, shall we say? I'm not a tactical expert. Don't get me wrong. I think if we weren't as in depth, knowledgeable about football, or just as big as fans of football as we were, that conversation probably would have ended a long time before it did. But it was amazing, and he took the time to sign a few bits as well, including my little son's Newcastle kit with his name on the back and number. So that's quite a special thing that I'll keep forever. But yeah, it was an amazing day. We even spotted Simon Bird from the Mirror, and we had a good chat with him. He was good crack as well. Very kind. So we're going to be in the media box for the Liverpool game, rubbing shoulders with journalists and ex-footballers. We'll be in the post-match press conference with Benitez and Klopp as well. So this amazing prize and experience is only halfway through as I'm talking on Friday here before the Liverpool game. It's going to be an amazing game, but let's go back into a bit more of a preview. I've obviously chatted a bit more about Liverpool's dynamic forwards, which are going to be very difficult to contain. Mane's back. Coutinho is apparently resettled after his summer of, I guess, transfer uncertainty towards Barcelona. You've obviously got Salah, who looks an incredible player. He obviously came to Chelsea and didn't really get much of a chance, but then he went to Roma and absolutely ripped the league up. So it's been no surprise to me that Mo Salah's come in and played really well. Of course, you've got Firmino, who's been involved in a ridiculous amount of goals in the calendar year. So we're going to have a lot to deal with on Sunday evening. But I think, as I mentioned before, the flags are going to be up, the Gallagher flags. It'll be a great display, it'll be a great atmosphere. But I think what we need to do is what we did against Stoke and have this, these defensive banks of four, and keeping shape and absorbing pressure, and I guess try and get Liverpool on the break. Liverpool are a team who like to break quickly as well, but I suspect, given that we are bottom of the possession table, Liverpool are not, they're going to get a lot more opportunities, a lot more possession, so it's going to be a lot more difficult for us to carve out goal-scoring chances. I saw Joselu as well. I told him that Sunday was going to be his day. I could feel it in my bones. I said, "You're going to score, Joselu." So let's. If he scores, I'm getting an assist for that, guys. I'm sorry, but partial credit. But I think we didn't find Joselu enough against Brighton. Spoke to Rafa about that, and he obviously fully agreed. And I told Rafa that had we played with the urgency that we did in the last 15 minutes against Brighton, that 75% possession, all those shots on goal and target, and we might have been a bit different. Rafa was adamant that the goal Brighton scored shouldn't have stood. It was a foul. A defender was held back before it was headed towards Hemed. But before that, we were largely, we were all right. They'd started better, but what we can't do is allow any lapses in concentration at the back if we were to get anything. Liverpool only lost one game this season, which was against Man City away, and we all know that was through the Mane high kick, which I told Rob Elliott to look out for. But looking at the last 6 meetings between Newcastle and Liverpool, in the last 6 meetings we've won 2, drawn 2 and lost 2, so it's quite evenly spread. Rafa Benitez hasn't lost against Liverpool since he left Anfield. I think that was a couple of draws when he was at Chelsea. And looking at goals for and goals against, now Newcastle have scored 6 and conceded 5. Liverpool have scored 12 and conceded 11. So both teams have a goal difference of +1. Our problem has been goals. We've basically averaged a goal a game, 6 and 6. Liverpool have scored double that, but then they've pretty much conceded double that as well. So Liverpool's weakness is the defence. But as Rafa Benitez himself pointed out to me, it's all very well saying that they've got a weak defence, but if you haven't got the ball in the possession and you don't create chances to exploit that poor defence, it doesn't make any difference. And he's absolutely right. You know, if we don't get possession, we're going to have little possession, but if we can be economical and efficient with it like we were against Stoke, we did a lot with a little, then we might carve out a few good chances. But it's Liverpool. I think in the last game, you know, in the previous games, they've had like up to 20, 30 shots. And by definition, if you have that many shots, you have that many, you know, quite a lot of possession. So we're going to have to it's going to be really tough, basically. I'll be surprised if we win. But I think a draw is within our grasp. I definitely don't think it's going to be a 0-0. I think for any of you gamblers out there, I think you lay against a 0-0 by a lot of money, because it's either they're conceding or we're conceding. It is just happening. Their attack is just too good and their defence is too porous, I think. But it's whether we can capitalise. So we'll see what happens against Liverpool. But I think our best chance of scoring is from set plays. So Liverpool have been really, really weak this season, and probably in previous seasons as likely as well. I know they've been trying to do a lot of more work on, you know, their defensive discipline and defending set plays. I mean, even in midweek in the Champions League, they conceded from a free kick, and you know the way they set the wall up. I was listening to the Guardian Football Weekly Extra before, and it was suggested on there that, you know, even the position of the defenders in the wall was wrong, and that as details as minute as that as why they're conceding. So mix that with Newcastle's prowess from set plays. Last season we scored a record number of goals from set plays, from dead balls, from corners, from free kicks. We scored from corners this season already, Richie and Lascelles. So I think that's probably our best chance. If we can get the ball forward, win a few free kicks, a few corners, get the defenders, the centre-backs up there, that's probably our biggest attacking threat at the minute, while no strikers are actually being very clinical. Perez is working hard, good part of the system, as I was mentioned before, but he's not creating a scoring yet. Atsu's the best chance for his breaking on pace, because he's the fastest in the team. Richie, I think, as much as he's not going to beat Alberto Moreno for pace, or we don't know if Robertson's going to play, but Moreno's been getting a lot more of a game in the league. Moreno's positional play is suspect, I think. It's fair to say. He's not as positionally disciplined. So I think Richie can be a bit clever there and bide his time and wait for Moreno to be out of position and still give him a bit of a, you know, he's going to work hard anyway. Even if he hasn't got the lightning pace that Atsu has, he's got the delivery, Richie. So maybe he doesn't even have to beat Moreno to get a good ball in for Hosselu, someone good to aim at. He's a great target man. Whether Marino or Shelvey plays, as we talked, Shelvey might come back into it, who knows. Hayden might be crucial still to give our defence a bit more stability and a bit more guard. But we'll see. It's going to be an amazing night. Newcastle Liverpool is a special fixture in the Premier League. It's going to be amazing to be there on an evening, and obviously the added experience that we're going to get being in the media suite as well. It'll be lovely, nice one-off occasion. We're going to make the most of it, of course. And if we can get a draw, I think that'll feel as good as a win against what is an absolutely spectacularly attacking side in Liverpool. But it'll be a great game, great atmosphere. I can't wait for it. And honestly, I'm still trying to get over the fact that I met Rafa Benitez yesterday. He was amazing. We are so lucky to have such a really nice but talented and passionate world-class manager in charge of our club, calling the shots and doing his best to stick up for the Newcastle fans and giving us what we want. He's doing the best with little, I think. We really should have a stronger squad, but the unity that I saw yesterday in the training ground and the togetherness and the team spirit, that counts for so much more than a team full of selfish world-class players, you know. I think there's a lot to be said for the unit. You look at the likes of Burnley, You look at the likes of Brighton even and Huddersfield. Unit, bigger than the sum of the parts, making the most of their assets and being just a bit more intelligent and strength with mentality as well. That's huge. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and listening. I know it's been a lot more of a longer, more in-depth video podcast. I needed to share my experience with Rafa and just tell you just how good hands we're in. We really are. We're so lucky to have him. But yeah, the Liverpool game's going to be tough. But stranger things have happened. We've beaten them before. Why not? We can beat them again. We really can. Can't wait for the game. Hope you can too. Please subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can catch the audio version of this on iTunes and SoundCloud as well. I've been Adam from the Toon Network. Special thanks to Vince as well for making all that amazing experience happen, and the club for being so hospitable. Ryan and Ian at the training centre were amazing to us all day. Players were really great as well. Thanks to everybody, and we'll see you soon. See you next time. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.